Hey, what's going on? Thanks as always for watching this video. I want to make this one pretty quick. I'm going to review the American Vintage Fender Tremolo system. Also, inquisitively, it's also called sometimes the 62 reissue. And so that's what I searched for it under, and that's how I bought it, as a 62 reissue trim. But again, it's sometimes called the American Vintage. So the part number is 099204900. It says made in Mexico. So yeah, but I did look up that part number, and if you can read that, I don't know if you can or not. It's probably too bright. Now you can read it. So it says made in Mexico, but that part number is actually the American Vintage Strat Tremolo, or the 62 reissue. Anyway, so it came in this box. I got this from Amazon for like $81, including shipping, brand new. And the box isn't in the greatest shape. It was shrink wrapped. I took that off. I've actually already opened this and messed around with it. I'm getting very antsy to start relicking it. So that's why I want to kind of talk about it real quick before I start scratching it up and making it look really old. So again, I have opened it, but this is kind of how it came in the box. And again, my box wasn't necessarily in the greatest shape, but so there's the trim, there's the top saddle pieces, there's a little piece of cardboard that's protecting the bridge plate, and then your trim arm is in there kind of in its own compartment. So that's that, and let me take that out. And then here is the assembly itself. The block on this thing is very awesome. It's very heavy. It's got a finish on it. I haven't actually checked whether or not it's magnetic. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be, but I'll look at that for you. And I think the saddles are nickel. I don't have all the specs in front of me, but they seem to be in nickel. And the bridge plate, I think, is just covered in chrome. It comes with 5 springs, which is good, and of course the trim claw on the back, or for the back of the guitar. And it comes with the 6 screws to bolt it down, or to screw it down to the body. It comes with the 2 trim arm claws screws. It comes also with the tip, of course, and then it also has the little spring that goes down inside the hole where the arm screws down to kind of make it not flop around everywhere, which is good. And also it comes with a string tree. Now, the only issue I have is when I opened this up the first time, I either lost it or it did not come with the little spacer that goes underneath the string tree. I cannot find, either it did not come with it for some reason, or I lost it, the little spacer that goes under the string tree. So I'm gonna have to go find one of those. So yeah, so let's just talk about this a little bit. Vintage specs. So what that means is, and I looked up a lot into this, and there's another video I have talking about the Wilkinson bridge that I bought, and I actually ended up sending that back, mainly because there's a little set screw in the back, and the set screw is stripped. I think it stripped the actual block itself, and Wilkinson does not have any kind of like spare parts you can buy. So anyway, I sent that back. It was broken, it was defective, and I got this one. The specs that I want to talk about really quick are the spacing of the screws that screw down to the body, and then the spacing of the saddles, which is identical. They match. Okay, so on some, they're different. So the hole spacing and the saddle spacing is the same, which is 2 7/32, not to be confused with 2 3/16. Or actually, you can confuse the two because they're interchangeable in regards to this dimension, which is what I found out. So I think Callahan usually refers to the dimension as 2 7/32, but Fender refers to it as 2 3/16. So if you do the math, you could also refer to 2 3/16 to 2 6/32, which is only 30 seconds different than the 2 7/32. So that relates to 1/32 of difference spread out between 5 spaces. So it's negligible. So don't be confused if you run into that. I was very confused at first. So that is the way this is. Go and look at this link I'm going to put up, or I'll put in the description, and I'll put a little graphic up that shows this It's toneshapers.com. Toneshapers.com. They've got a really good chart that describes all these dimensions that I'm talking about. But the key ones are the holes and the saddle sizes or saddle spacing. So vintage is wider, so that means your high E and your low E strings are going to be a little bit closer to the edge of the neck portion that's closest to the body. Whereas on like the American Standard, they would have a more narrow spacing, so they'd be a little closer off the edge of the neck. So I wanted mine to be kind of vintage, and I went back and forth, but in the end I don't think it really matters that much, and so I went with this one. And again, this feels so solid, it really feels good. The Wilkinson one I had, it didn't really feel this heavy, I don't believe. It was pretty heavy and solid, I will give it that, but it didn't feel quite as substantial as this. So one thing I ran into when I first installed this arm into the body or of the block, it did not want to go in. Like, it was like grinding, and I thought I was going to break it. And so I kind of kept with it and kept messing with it a little bit. But the thing is, and I read this somewhere, is if you take all these saddles off, you'll find like 3 screws in there, 3 to 4. 3 screws. And so if you take all the saddles off, and then what you do is you loosen those up. So you take the bridge plate and you loosen it to where it's not, it's tight. It's not really like screwed down to the block. So it's got a little wiggle room. And that gives, so you leave that a little loose, and then you put in the arm, tighten it down, and then screw back down the bridge plate to the block. And so what happens is any little bit of interference will cause this to kind of like bind up or not go in smoothly. And the reason is because you can see that this goes in at an angle into the block, so it goes down like that instead of straight. And that's one of the features of these original Fender trims, is that it goes at an angle. The Wilkinson does not, it just drops straight in and has that set screw. Now, if anybody has any comments or information on the new American Professional one, I think it also pops in. I'd be interested to hear how that works. But that's this one, and that's a little tip I picked up, is loosening that bridge plate and then tightening down the arm and then tightening that back down the bridge plate. Other than that, that's about it. I haven't obviously installed it on the guitar. Once that happens, I'll either, basically if all goes well and there's nothing wrong with it, it's going to act like a normal trim. There's really nothing to tell you about. If I run into any issues, on the other hand, then I will let you know what those are. But otherwise, this is just a purely typical, standard, solid trim. And it's got the stamped saddles, which is cool. It's got the Fender on there. So yeah, it's just basically a good, solid, really nice trim. And usually I think they go for like $130. So if you can get one on Amazon for the price of $80, that's a great deal. So I think that's it for now. And again, if I have anything further once I install it on the guitar, I'll let you know. Otherwise, it's your standard trim. Very nice. The block is magnetic. This screwdriver has a magnetic tip to where the little screwdriver end goes in there and it locks into place. And when I put this up against the block, it definitely is pulling it to where it's, a little difficult to pull back off. So I can feel that magnetic attraction. So this is going to be solid steel, just in case you were wondering.